Hello, my name's Melissa Ballally, and in my lounge at One Tech World is the amazing Karen Blake, who's the co-founder of the Tech Talent Charter. Welcome, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Vanessa.
Oh, it's lovely to have you on board. So, obviously, I know who you are, but tell everyone, and this is your first challenge, you've got 60 seconds. Tell everyone who you are and a little bit about you.
So I'm Karen. I'm co-CEO at Tech Talent Charter, and my kind of area of specialism when we look at D&I is neuroinclusion and disability. I've worked from kind of grassroots organisations and with businesses and organisations to really make that transformational change within, so that they're more neuroinclusive and they've got a sort of deeper understanding of what to do. In my role at TTC, we're a not-for-profit organisation, and we look to drive diversity and inclusion across tech occupations. We have over 800 signatory companies now.
Amazing.
All shapes and sizes, from your startups and scale-ups all the way to kind of global corporations, and pretty much everything in between. And we look to provide concrete measurement and insights into diversity in the tech ecosystem and actionable ways forward for gathering, curating and distributing innovative practices, techniques and ideas. So we're all about that tangible action. It's what can we do now to make change for next?
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about the work of the Tech Talent Charter. When did you begin? What did you set out to achieve? And more importantly, are you thinking you're making progress in that area?
Yeah, so we set out in 2015 with the mission of not the frustration really of the question of people saying, why is there not enough women in tech? And that it was just like, gosh, we need to do something that's more deep than having this same conversation that feels super circular. So since then, we have obviously grown massively with the number of organisations that we work with, but also with the scope of the work that we work within. So we cover all lenses and protected characteristics and career life stages. And what we're really looking to do is have that holistic viewpoint of how you support people well to thrive in their careers, and how to really build a very strong business based on that diversity of thought and having that kind of strong retention of your talent.
Yeah, fantastic. So you recently released a report a couple of months back on equity, diversity and inclusion in tech. What were the key highlights of that? What were the moments that you was like, that's great news, we've seen improvement, or that's not so great news?
Yeah, so our diversity in tech report just came out in March time, and this is a report based on demographic information that's shared with us from our signatories. So over 700 companies contributed to the report, and that's over 230,000 technologists that we report on. So an enormous amount of people UK-wide, and specifically looking at technologists. When we look at the kind of the key stats of the the outputs there, what we've seen is that there's been a slight increase in the number of women in tech. So we're now sitting at about 29%, which is a 1% rise from last year. Now, this is from an engaged group of organisations that are committed to D&I. So we know that sits slightly above some of the other reports. What I would say is a 1% rise is a very fragile rise, and I have some nervousness about how we sustain that number and make sure that we continue to grow, especially when we consider that only 21% of senior tech role holders are women. So that's actually slipped back compared to last year, and that really, really concerns me. Absolutely, we need to make sure that women are getting in, that they're getting on, and that they're getting into those roles that really are decision-making roles. And seeing that slip back a bit from last year is a massive concern.
Yeah.
For the first time this year, actually, we were able to ask around software engineers and how many software engineers were women, and only 20% of software engineers are women, and you go, okay, well, why is that important? Well, when we consider AI and the building of the most novel new tools, actually our software engineers are pivotal in that. So if we really want to make sure that we're building a fair and representative future scape with AI, we absolutely need to make sure that there's representation in the room. I would also say when we look at kind of startups, often our first tech hire will be a software engineer, and they really set the culture for a team. And so where we're seeing fewer female software engineers, that also kind of breeds out on how the culture develops in startups and innovative scale-ups as well. So I think that's something that definitely one to watch, one for us to really consider, why have we got that discrepancy? We also look at ethnicity year on year. So we have, we're able to report that 25% of UK tech employees are ethnic minorities. For us, it's really important to start to disaggregate that data a little bit. So actually only 5% of that number are Black. And when we consider how many are Black women, we know that's many fewer. So we know that we have seen some improvement with ethnic minority representation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're seeing that equally across different ethnic minority groups. This one really hurts me, I have to say, that only 14% of senior tech role holders are ethnic minorities. So when we consider that 25% of ethnic minorities are technologists, and that drops down to 14%, that's a real concern. And I think we need to actually ask some deep questions on that. Why are we seeing such a disconnect with ethnic minorities getting into tech roles but not getting on? And I think that we have to really hold a mirror up to ourselves and make sure that, are we creating environments for success? Have we got strong Black allyship in our organisations? And are we really tackling discrimination where it sits? Because with that kind of discrepancy, we need to really see that there aren't systemic problems in our organisation. So that's a massive one for us. And then for the first time that we were able to really dig into neurodivergence actually this year, and this is obviously a big area of interest for me. So just 3% of tech employees have disclosed that they're neurodivergent when we asked organisations. But when asked directly, 53% of technologists indicated they were neurodivergent. I mean, that's a wild difference, isn't it? I know. And you ask sort of like, well, why is that? And I think that it's definitely that trust in disclosure, feeling that that there is the available options to disclose appropriately. Being asked when you're in the recruitment process often is not the right time. You don't feel like, how is that going to be used? Am I going to be safe by sharing this with this organisation? Having multiple opportunities to disclose is really important. Making sure that people don't have to regularly come out. So are we creating things like employee passports? Are we making sure that we really are neuro-inclusive? And I think this is a big one. There has been an awful lot of work to increase awareness of neurodivergence, which is good because that breaks stigma. But actually where I'm seeing a bit of a disconnect is, are we making things better for neurodivergent technologists? Or are we just giving neurotypical people more information about neurodivergence? And I fear that actually we're not necessarily making things better for neurodivergent technologists, because I still see a real stigma when our neurodivergent people are perhaps stimming, which is a physical movement to regulate themselves. That might be hand flapping, that might be spinning. Now, if you do that in certain environments, that is still very much seen as, gosh, I'm noticing there's comments being made. So until we get to a point where neuroinclusion means that actually neurodivergent people can unmask, we've still got an awful long way to go. Beyond that, are we actually really creating career paths for our neurodivergent people? If we're always including line management of other people, we are going to be creating barriers. Not for all neurodivergent people, but certainly for some. And when we're sort of setting out those career paths, if we're not actually allowing for difference in the way that we're kind of taking our cargo net approach across the piece, we are going to not be able to utilise the wonderful talent that we have with our neurodivergent technology. So that's a really big one, and I was so interested to do the extra research on that so that we could really drill into it. The other stat that really stood out to me is that only 9% of tech employees are reported to be from a lower socioeconomic background. This compares to 39% in the UK population. And what really stands out is that when we compare tech to legal and finance, actually we're seeing that they sit about 23 to sort of 29%. So there's a massive disconnect. So we know that there is definitely space for us to make change and to sort of improve that number, because 9% I don't think any of us can really be proud of.
No, absolutely not. Wow. What about disability?
So we're sitting at about 6% of tech employees are disabled, compared to about 23% in the wider working age population. And this is an area that we are seeing more focus, that there are organisations that are really looking at this, and government have certainly thrown down the gauntlet that they want to see more disabled people in work and being enabled to have thriving careers. So I'm optimistic that we will start to see some movement there, and we know from all of the research that actually if you build for disability and that level of accessibility, you're actually building products for all. That's essentially inclusion for all sits when you kind of consider disability. So that's really important. And for me, I think one thing that we really need to start to consider is age-acquired disability. As we have an aging population in our organisations, we're going to need to address things like sight changing and hearing changes more often. And so this is an area we really need to think about in a generational way as well, so that we can make sure that we can continue to allow people to have their careers that thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so much to think about, but so many interesting stats, like in terms of where the gaps are. It's positive in a way because now at least we know where we kind of need to focus. So, I mean, I think you guys do absolutely incredible work. If there's any companies that are watching this and thinking, right, chomping at the bit, how do we get involved? What do they have to do?
So I would say that there's a couple of things to do. To get involved, absolutely, consider joining TTC. We are a free membership organisation. So get on the website, take a look, and come and join us. That's a very easy way to make sure that you're getting the kind of up-to-date insights, the practical ways to approach this, and actually a bit of support. This isn't an easy space to work in sometimes. And so we offer an awful lot of peer group support because we want individuals that work in D&I roles to be successful, and it can be lonely. So absolutely consider joining TTC. If you're not at a stage that you can do that, read the report. The Diversity in Tech report is on our website. That will allow you to dig into some of those stats that I just shared. And then more than that, I'll just say take stock of where you stand. How can you be part of the solution? What can you do in your role, in your organisation to start to make this change? What are your plans for now and next to actually be part of this solution rather than continuing to live in the problem? So that's what I would kind of throw if people are considering what should we do now?
Brilliant. And you've got the open playbook, haven't you, on the website as well?
Yeah. So our open playbook is our catalogue of best practice, and it helps you to kind of supercharge your desk research. So perhaps you're looking for some advice around a certain career stage, or perhaps a lens that you're looking to support more deeply. This is a great way to kind of dig in and sort of find that insight that you need. Or you're looking for a specific data point. I think we've all been under the cosh sometimes and sort of needed to find a certain data point to support our argument on something, and there's loads of data there, including our benchmarking calculator, which allows you to see how you perform against other organisations for gender and ethnicity across your region, tech team size and industry type. So that's a great way, and that's a downloadable report. That's a great way to actually bring that to senior leaders and say, look, we're doing loads and we're in the top quartile, or perhaps actually, look, we're lagging behind, and we need to put more effort to it. So that's a really powerful tool to use.
Brilliant. Okay, Karen, it's been absolutely amazing. And obviously, for those of you watching, you can go to the Tech Talent Charter website. You can have a look at their latest reports. You can sign up to be a signatory if you're a company. You can look at their playbook. So abundance of resources. There really are no excuses. And if you're watching and your company, you're thinking, why is my company not a Tech Talent Charter member? Then take it to the powers that be, whoever they may be, and put the website in front of them, and let's see if we can get more signatories, because we are absolutely better together, and we will go further, with that collaborative approach as well. But Karen, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. I take it people can find you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Yep, yeah, come connect to me. Love to see you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Amazing insights, and thank you very much for the work that you do. But I hope you all enjoyed that session. And again, hopefully you'll connect with Karen and you'll keep on top of the work of the Tech Talent Charter. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Vanessa.